Dee 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 da 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 da. Dun, dun. Is that put into the put into to our good friends at Blue Fame, Sam? Look, I am not getting a an acceptance from Facebook. What's that? Maybe we could look at that. And oh, I got nothing. Waiting for live video. Now this has happened before, folks. And do I hit here or here? Right here. It should be down there. Right? Let's see what happens. Oh, there you go. There it is, man. It just took forever. And that is about the longest we've ever had it. But it gets really busy on Facebook right about now, so it's kind of hard to accept it sometimes. And I will tell you guys when we start up on the radio and on the video. We're on the network video now, and then we're going to be on Facebook here momentarily. But hi, everybody. Welcome in on Facebook and Amazon, Apple, and Roku. My name's Jim Diedlow, host of Jed in the Region. And from time to time, we talk to interesting people in the community about interesting things, their businesses, whatever it might be. And this was one of those times we're going to talk to Dr. Sean Kondamuri. Doctor, how are you? Okay, you've got a mute on there, my friend, in the corner there. We can see your lips moving, but it's like a politician. How do you know he's lying? His lips are moving. And let's see. Yeah, so I've got nothing on you. Can you hear me okay? You can hear me all right. So let's ask Sam why he's not getting any sound off of his end there. Sam, you got any ideas? Let's see. More. Stop video, make host, put in waiting room, remove. All right, I'm going to mute you. And then now I'm going to unmute you. And there you go. So I still got nothing from Dr. Sean Kondamuri. All right, is there any other spot we could have a problem here? La pa la da na da na da na na na. La da ma da na da dee 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 dee. Is that good now?
No, I'm not muted.
All right, I got nothing. Hi, doctor. How are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me, Jim?
Now we can hear you. I don't know what happened, but something just took its time to get ready. How do you like those technical problems, huh?
Don't like them.
Good, I like it. Like when you're driving your bike along and you're like 50 miles away from your house and then you get a flat tire and then you realize that you forgot your flat fix-it, that kind of stuff. That could be a lot.
We don't want any flat tires.
Hey, doctor, your offices are where?
We have offices in Munster, Dyer, Hobart, and Chesterton.
And what does a pain doc actually mean and a spine doctor mean?
So a spine doctor can be a surgeon who actually operates in the spine, and a spine specialist can also be a non-surgeon who does procedures and other minimally invasive surgeries on the spine, but not the biggest surgeries. So we come under the category of spine specialists and pain management specialists. So we deal with spinal problems of every kind, whether they're from herniated discs or spinal stenosis, sciatica, muscle issues, and a number of other nerve conditions that all result in spine pain, back pain, neck pain, leg pain, arm pain. And these things are conditions that are, for the most part, are very amenable to treatment. And we can treat patients without big surgeries in almost, I want to say 80, 90% of the cases. They don't require big surgeries.
How long you been doing this?
I've been here since 1996, Jim, 25 years. Almost 25 years this coming summer.
And you sent some kids to Munster High?
Yes, I had my oldest son, Neil, graduated in 2010. My second son, Nathan, graduated in 2013. And I have a sophomore in the high school right now who will graduate in 2023, I think.
And which one is going to take over the family business?
I don't know if any of them are. I do have one who's in medical school, but I don't think he wants to do what I'm doing.
He doesn't want to do spine?
I don't think so. He's interested in ear, nose, and throat. I'm not sure where that came from, but he's interested in helping people to breathe and hear better and that kind of thing, and also deal with thyroid conditions and stuff like that, head and neck cancers.
Yeah, well, I mean, both spine and ear, nose, and throat, those can be fairly regular hours, correct? Some of the Some of the
Yeah,
other, well, some of the other specialties, they can, cut into your weekends sometimes,
true, Jim. I mean, clearly there are some specialties that are very, very time intensive, and you're working, late hours and things like that. And some specialties are a little bit more lifestyle friendly. But the reality is, even the most time intensive specialties, typically surgical specialties, even those nowadays it's more of a shift basis at times. People are work. Medicine's different now than it was 30 years ago.
And
Uh,
so is
are demanding regular hours.
spine medicine, right? I mean, that's it seems like every time we're talking with you, you got a new angle for how you can really kind of get less and less invasive into the spine. I know guys who had spine surgeries 30 years ago. Seems like they were locked up for like a
Oh
month,
yeah.
and then now some of them you're in and out in the same day, right?
Oh my God. Most of the things that I do are in and out the same day with maybe a half an hour or 1 hour recovery period, and that's about it. You're going home. I have a gentleman who's been having pain for a long, long time, and we provided him with a pretty new treatment called Sprint PNS. And it's super exciting because Sprint PNS is something that requires that we put a thin little wire in the muscles and onto the bone. Not like spinal cord stimulation we've talked about before, but a very, very minimally invasive procedure, no incision, that stays in them for about 2 months, and then it comes out after 2 months, and they're pain free for maybe a year or two. And this gentleman, I put that in, and he is so happy off of all his medications. He's so much more happier. I just got an email from him recently, and he's like 100% better as far as his back pain goes. So there are just so many new technologies that are not, everything's not for everyone. It depends on what your condition is, but we have options for most patients. We had to find the best option.
Did you ever see the movie with Larry Flint in it, Hustler? It probably didn't, but it was about he owned the magazine Hustler. I mean, it's a
Okay.
well-known. It's not. It's a well-known movie. What's the one guy that played him that used to play in the bar? Cheers, and forget his name, but he's a
Uh-huh.
well-known actor. And in that movie, Larry Flint always had back pain, right?
He was in a wheelchair, wasn't he, all the
Yeah,
time?
Woody Harrelson. Yes.
Woody Harrelson, okay.
Yeah, and so he was always in a
White men
wheelchair.
can't jump.
Yeah, there you go. And yeah, there you go. And he gets all these years he's on pain pills, and he's kind of like
Yeah.
messed up, and then he has the back surgery, and then he's like, wow, I don't need the pain pills anymore. And then his girlfriend's like, what do you mean you don't need the pain pills? We're both addicted. And so he's like, yeah, I just needed the pain pills because my back hurt. And now, he's like, it doesn't hurt anymore. So, I mean, you can see that, but that was like a major surgery. It's probably something you could do outpatient now and, be a
Yeah,
whole different story.
exactly.
Because I believe that was like in the 80s or whenever he had his problem.
True.
Doc,
One nice analogy, Jim, is if you look at cardiac surgery, 20 years, maybe a generation ago, people would have to have cardiac surgery, get your heart open up for everything. Now the cardiologist can put a stent in through an artery, and he can open up an artery and save you from big surgery. You can even put a valve in. A valve replacement can be done through a catheter, through the groin. So a lot of surgeries that used to be considered only surgical by the cardiac surgeon are now not even requiring cardiac surgery anymore. So in the same way, pain management or interventional pain and a spine specialist can do things, we hope, in the next few years that'll avoid a lot of the big surgeries that are being done now. We can even perform fusions in a minimally invasive way. And that is something that it's a lot of crazy things going on now that are changing healthcare and changing medicine, as we know it right now.
we're talking to Dr. Sean Kondamuri. He is with his Midwest interventional spine specialist. And from time to time, we just come on and talk to him, and he's a good sponsor here at WJOB. So, Doc, let's put it into perspective right now. We've started this show, and it was like, oh, we're just gonna, maybe go once a month and talk about spinal techniques and stuff, and we kind of kicked it up a little bit because people want to hear what you have to say and your kind of holistic look at the whole body and so forth. I was reading recently that a number of people are deciding not to go to the doctor for, they're afraid to go anywhere really, but they don't want to go into the doctor, and they're putting health things off. I imagine back is one of them, and just about anything else. Um, what are the long term? Let's just narrow it down to the back right now and the spine. Somebody keeps putting it off because I don't want to go to the doctor. I don't know how safe it is. I mean, what are the problems they can run into?
Well, first off, I totally understand where patients come from. It's kind of scary at times. I mean, especially if depending on how much anxiety you have, you can be really worried about getting out of your house because of COVID-19, and you may not trust the facility you're going to, and you may not want to go. But it is a reality, though, that if you do put things off too long, it's going to make things worse, especially with your spine. Because what may have started out, as an example, may have started out as just a herniated disc. Suppose you have a healthy 40-year-old gentleman, let's say, hardworking, goes to work every day, manages his family, works out regularly, let's just even say, he gets a herniated disc. On day one, it's just a herniated disc, which is pinching up against a nerve, which is pretty bad. But if you drag that on for weeks and months and don't do anything about it, or you just kind of manage it on your own by avoiding certain activities, maybe taking lots, chewing down lots of ibuprofen, you might do well short term. But what happens is other things start developing, like the muscles start getting really tight. Those muscles start protecting your spine where your pain is, and you lose a lot of flexibility. If the muscles get tight, you lose flexibility, and you're not going to have much movement in the joints or in the muscles. And then you'll develop other problems. We call them biomechanical disturbances. So if you think of somebody who's got a knee problem, let's say, and they start limping, if you limp with that knee problem and you let it go long enough, what happens is the force from the force that that the body takes on, it's not only taken on by the knee anymore, it goes to your hip and it goes to your back. And now you make back and hip problems worse. You develop biomechanical disturbances that aggravate the arthritis that might be in your spine. And all of a sudden now you have a spinal issue, which may not have ever happened if you're taking care of the knee issue. So you really can't ignore things for too long. It can become a problem.
So if you guys want to talk to Dr. Kondamuri, 219-845-1100, we'll be on for another 10 or 15 minutes. So, Doc, it's getting cold out today, and I was going to go for a bike ride, but it's too cold. I just don't feel like freezing my butt off, right?
You can do it.
Yeah, I know I could, but actually my daughter was going to go with me, and she's like, it's too cold. So she's like, all right, well, why don't we do some, like, calisthenics or something? And now we know you're a big bike rider. We know you like to stay in shape. But now it's going to start getting crappy out. And many of us are health club people, and I was a health club guy for years and years. Got any other ideas?
Well, I mean, in general, Jim, when you're talking about COVID and the risk of COVID, a healthy lifestyle is what's going to potentially reduce your risk of catching COVID and getting sick from COVID. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, you can avoid, maybe there's a lot of things you can do to avoid the risk or reduce your risk of COVID-19, like not going to the gym because you're worried there's just too many people there and they're not wiping down the machines, or perhaps, wearing a mask because you think that's going to protect you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if the people who are very healthy are going to be less likely to get very sick, even if you do become positive. And the strategies I've talked to you about before with regards to spinal fitness and just general health and nutrition, they apply for COVID. It's the same thing. Nutrition is very important. Sleep is really important. Exercise is important. And just having a healthy lifestyle, picking the right foods to eat, and dealing with stress.
Dealing with stress. Now, according to the calculations that I'm getting from the Associated Press and from the news cycles, we may be entering one of the two most tumultuous weeks we've had in recent history.
Right.
It's busy as hell here. I've already had a tumultuous day. It's not a good, during this time, it's not a good day unless someone threatens to sue you. You know what I mean? There's so much politics going on.
Sorry to hear that, Jim.
Yeah. So it happens, it happens a lot in what we do here during the election time. Other than that, I never get a problem. But, I'm under a lot of stress right now up until the election. A lot of other people are watching it. They really care about their candidates. I mean, you're really in a weird little pocket of history right now where we may have the whole dang country on pins and needles right now. What can you say about dealing with that stress as a population?
It's some of the same thing I talked about before. I mean, stress. Where do I begin? This is a big question. I mean, basically, everybody wants to feel healthy and vibrant. Everybody wants to have energy. Everybody wants to have less stress in their lives. It's easy to say it, and saying it on its own just doesn't make it happen. You have to do something to reduce your stress and cope with your stress. And we talk about, the elections are coming up, right? In a couple of weeks, we're going to be going to the polls, and it's going to be a huge amount of people voting. Voter turnout's supposed to be very high this year. And you're going to be standing in lines maybe for hours. Who knows how long?
So right now, I drove by Wicker Park. It's like 80 people. You can't even vote right now. But anyways, go ahead.
I remember 4 years ago, I think I walked right into the Dyer polling station. It was hardly 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's it. It's going to be a lot longer. So I imagine they're going to have restrictions. They're going to make you wear a mask. Wear your mask, but still try to maintain some distance, and try maybe even wear gloves. So do some things that to at least take the stress of catching COVID off of your mind. But then the issues of you're standing for a long time. So that's stressful. I mean, a lot of our elderly individuals can't really stand. And if you're older, you're at high risk. The older patients, older population who always come out to vote for the most part, they're at very high risk of becoming positive. And if they become positive, getting sick. If you're obese, you have a high risk of becoming positive and getting sick from COVID. So all this is a serious stress. I've told you before, take a break from the news, stop watching and stop following the numbers if you can. Whether Indiana has an increase or surge in cases right now shouldn't change what you do. You should already be taking precautions. You should already be avoiding unnecessary trips outside. You should be, maintaining a lot of, social distancing, wearing your mask. So whether or not there's more cases or less, you should still already be using maximum precautions so you don't get sick. Now that's hard to say because I know a lot of people in the public don't believe in a lot of these precautions. They don't want to wear masks. And I'm not going to tell you, what's right or what's wrong. I can only tell you what the data says. And the scientific data, and it's been studied, masks reduce transmission of this illness. And if you wear a mask, you're less likely to reduce transmission. Whether it's a paper mask or a cloth mask or even a scarf around your face, it does not only protect the person you're in front of, but it protects you. And it's not mandated in America necessarily. It's mandated at certain establishments, right? Like if you go to a restaurant or if you're at the polling booth, I'm sure it's going to be mandated that you got to wear a mask. But all the other places that you might be, it's up to you. But if you are completely relaxed about all this and you don't believe it even exists, that's one extreme of having no stress. Where I don't believe this. It's a conspiracy. I'm not going to get sick. Even if I know a lot of my friends who are positive, they're not sick. So why should I worry? Well, that's one way to not feel stress. But you can't be irrational. You can't be naive that something else is going on out there.
We're talking to Dr. Sean Kondamuri, and of course, you got any back pain, he's your guy. Any spinal pain, actually any pain in general, you're going to want to go over and see he and I think the 4 other doctors and 2 PAs, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Correct.
And they've got a number of places, and quite frankly, kind of cornered the market on spinal care in certain parts of the region here.
We haven't cornered the market, Jim. We've just cornered the market on good, integrous care, compassionate care, taking care of people the way they should be taken care of. There's lots of people who do what I do or say they do what I do, but we think we're different. And, that's why we were voted number 1 in the region the last 9 times in a row. Well, last 9 out of 10 times.
You're part of that reason too, Doc. I mean, let's just be straight. I mean, I told you before, I go, I don't know how this is going to go, but from the day we sat down, I'm like, wow, this guy, you know how to break really the one time we went through all the spinal things, and I had guys texting going, man, I've had back pain all my life, and no one's ever broke it down like that simply. Well, you're able to take the complex and make it simple. So I know you try to shove it off on other people, but you're kind of the driving force behind there, and I know you could be humble about it, and I'll just tell people that you bring a lot to the table. And one of the things that I believe that you bring to the table here is perspective on what's going on right now. It's kind of expanded this show. Yeah, we talk about spine. Now let's go. Doc, talk to me what you start to think about post-COVID and how that might change healthcare.
Well, that's a big question, Jim, and it's definitely going to change healthcare. It's already changing healthcare. There's a whole lot of companies that have just, for example, there's a lot of companies that have just come out of the woodwork that are doing a lot of work with telemedicine, providing new options for seeing patients, via the computer as opposed to seeing them in person. So you're going to see more of that, at least in primary care offices, that in any situation where you don't necessarily have to examine the patient, if you can do it by computer, why not? You should. And that's going to reduce contact with the patient. It's going to make things more efficient. And as long as it's paid for, because the reality is it's healthcare economics. If the doctor or the nurse practitioner or the nurse is in front of a computer for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour, if they're not paid for it, it's not going to happen. They're going to make you come back to the office. Right now, Medicare is paying for it. That may go away. We don't know. We assume that it will be there to some extent. But if you're paid less for it, if the doctor's office is paid 50% of what they'd get paid to see the patient in person, well, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that they're going to insist the patient come into the office because it's time. You're paying for that time. If the time is 30 minutes in front of the computer or 30 minutes in front of the patient, well, if you're getting paid more for that, you're going to see them that way. And I don't like to talk that way, but that's a reality. So that's one piece, telemedicine. And the other thing is, I think that patients are going to look at their healthcare conditions a little differently. They're going to probably, I wouldn't be surprised if people are going to socially distance and wear masks a little more regularly for years to come. Those people who believe in this, I think they're going to think, well, if it helps me with COVID-19, why don't I wear a mask during flu season? Why should I take a risk by being in front of somebody, being right in front of somebody and having them talk to me or cough on me and getting a disease? I think the restaurant industry is going to change totally. I think people like eating outside. I love eating outside, even when it's cold and there's a nice heater. I was out at the Girl and the Goat on Saturday night. And that's outside, they had these down in Chicago.
Yeah,
and they had these beautiful heaters.
I didn't know they had any outside area there.
Oh, they do now. So this is on Randolph. So they basically taken over a part of the street. So where you used to park, that is now the restaurant seating, outdoor seating. So I think people enjoy sitting outside as long as it's warm and they have heaters to make it warm. So restaurants are going to have to change. They're adapting. They're going to have to figure out how can we make money when we can only seat 75% of the number of people we sat before, or 50%. Who knows if I think we're at 75% now in Indiana and Illinois. If we have another surge, Illinois is going to quickly come down to 50% or maybe even close restaurants for a while. Who knows? So businesses are going to really have to adapt. And they have to do that all the time, right? Any business, just like your business, Jim. You're running that radio station. I'm running this medical practice. If we don't adapt, we die. If you want to provide your service and help people and also be profitable, you have to adapt to the times. So those times are changing. They're going to, for the next 1 year, it's going to be a big change. I don't know if we can anticipate when it'll be normal again. Because, we have 350 million people in America who are looking at this differently. And the public has their own opinion about things. We're going to have a vaccine that'll be available soon, right? We'll probably have a vaccine before the summer, is what I'm hearing. Now, the problem is there are so many people who really don't trust the vaccine. They don't trust if the vaccine is safe. There's issues with safety. Is it going to be a safe vaccine? Have they pushed out fast just to get it out? And then maybe I'm going to die or have a complication from taking it. So maybe they won't take it. Maybe the public will say, well, I'm going to wait for the next guy to take it first. And if they don't die, then I'll maybe take it. Then there's questions with transparency. Have some of these vaccine trials, apparently there was one trial, it was called the Oxford AstraZeneca trial. They stopped that twice. So in Europe, they restarted the trial because there was a complication, but they figured it wasn't due to the vaccine. But in America, we haven't restarted that trial. So you have to wonder, governments are making decisions on their own. So if a vaccine is available, but nobody takes it, then we're going to still have COVID-19 going on for a long time. And then even if it's available, Jim, if they say like tomorrow the vaccine's available, it'll take 6 months to vaccinate the population. And that's if everybody agrees. And in America, everybody does not agree on the same thing. It just doesn't work that way. So then if it takes 6 to 9 months to vaccinate the population, you got to add another several months before we actually have people who are safe. And we have what's called herd immunity. The population is sort of immune to the disease now. But as you know, with influenza, even with the influenza vaccine, it only captures maybe 20, 30, 40% of the actual flu virus that's out there. I'm not sure what this new vaccine will do. It's not going to cover 100% of the vaccine. The vaccines are, people are already talking about the virus mutating a bit. So if the virus is mutating, how are you going to catch up to that? So I'm not trying to be, create fear or scare people, but it's just to say that COVID-19 is going to be around for a while, and we should prepare for it. And part of that preparation is taking precautions, but also managing your own home and your own self, dealing with stress. I've said it before, you got to think about doing things that are related to mindfulness. Figure out how you're going to create space for yourself so you can think, so you can breathe, so you can put space between yourself and the way you react to things. Because problems will always be there. How you react to the problem is what differentiates whether or not it's going to be a good day or a bad day.
Talking to Dr. Sean Kondamuri with Midwest Interventional Spine Specialists. Of course, any back pain, you want to go to Doc, and then any spinal pain or pain in general. But also, it's refreshing to hear the doctor's perspective. He's been in the business for a little while. He's a little bit longer in the tooth than when he started, and has been around and can comment on some of these things. Doc, why don't you finish with your four-pronged approach to managing life, huh?
You mean eat well, eat less. Oh boy, I'm blanking. You caught me off guard. Eat less, stress less, move more, and move more and love more.
Well, you got them in the wrong. I think
I'm
eat
blanking.
less, move more,
stress
less, and
love
more.
more.
Now,
there you go.
The only reason I know that is that you got to have some keywords sometimes when you're trying to figure out, like, it's 1:30 in the afternoon. I'm working my ass off. I've been going at it for 8 hours. What should I focus some perspective? Then it's like, all right, dude, you worked long enough. Take a break. And that you're probably actually helping yourself at that point.
If you remember those four things, Jim, and you kind of apply some of them in some way during your day, you're probably going to be pretty good. You'll be pretty good.
All right, let's leave it right there. We're going to cut that little spot that Doc talks about the vaccines there. We're going to cut that. I'm going to play that in the morning, Doctor, because that was pretty good. I mean, if people are asking questions and what do you think and what are the possibilities, that was some excellent conjecture. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Jim.
All right, talk to you soon. There it is,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Sean Kondamuri. Let me end him there. See you guys. And that is sponsored by Midwest Interventional Spine Specialists. I love talking to Doc, man. He's got some good ideas and